Good morning and welcome to this week's episode of Iconic Freedom, The Formula. Here we set a standard for accountability and responsibility, the ownership of your choices and your outcomes and everything that follows. Let each care for self and all will be cared for. So when I talk about the formula, we talk about that periodic chart that you see on the various websites that this is posted on, where you create those elements that come together and bring harmony to your life. And if one of those elements in your life is not working, then you extract it and you reevaluate it and, again, bring that harmony to your life. On today's episode, I really want to talk about something that I think is pretty fascinating about the process that we all go through as we develop more personal responsibility and accountability. Two words you are going to be familiar with the rest of your life. But one of them is what I call the missing audience. That, after you stop explaining yourself, something else, I think, disappears as well, and that is an audience. No reactions, no reassurances. There's no one sitting there nodding along or pushing back, that kind of stuff. And I think this is where many people kind of feel exposed, if you will. They're not because, they're alone in a sense, but because they were never actually standing on their own to begin with. What do I mean by that? Well, so here's this, what I call this quiet question that surfaces. Who are you when no one else is watching? When no one else is approving? When no one else is reacting? I know you've heard that statement before when people will say, who are you when no one else is watching? But there's something more powerful about it, if that makes sense, when you've developed responsibility and accountability. Because it's not who you say you are, right? And not who you present as. So the whole idea of the image building that we've talked about over the last few years, that people make choices to image build, this will make me look this way, or, I want to appear this way. There is no appearance. There's only choice and decision and the ability to respond to the choice and the ownership of the accountability for the outcome of whatever the choice is. And the more you do that, the more who you are, emerges. I do not think that integrity is loud. It doesn't, it doesn't have to announce itself, right? It doesn't explain. It doesn't require witnesses. Integrity is what holds you when no one is looking. Integrity becomes that innate, that natural part of who you are, choice you would make in any given situation. You do the thing because it's the right thing to do for you, not because it's going to be seen by others. And it's really interesting because this is, this idea of people virtue signaling in our society is huge. And people still doing it right now. I mean, it's like taken off like a house afire. And then people get all of these accolades for virtue signaling. But is that really their integrity? Is that really their character? Is it what they would do if no one was looking? If you didn't get the applause, if you didn't get the compensation, would you still do what you do? You do the thing because it's the right thing to do for you, not because it's seen. So I think there's this thing that I'm going to term performative morality. And I have distaste for the word morality because there is no such thing. But I watch people try to engage in it. And I think this is where many people probably get uncomfortable because a lot of what we call being good is actually being seen as being good. I have a short little clip I'm going to show in a few minutes, but it's such a pervasive thing that has metastasized in our society that we'd much rather be seen as being good than actually having that good nature from within extended outward. Morality, that's performed for like approval, it just collapses the moment everybody walks away. The minute the audience leaves, you know, those people not so moral, if that's what they've got going. And it's not because, anybody's bad. Well, there might be some people that are bad, but it's more because the motivation was external. The choices were made for performance, for image building, that others might see you in a particular way. And I have to say, I went through this probably about 10, 15 years ago, where I was really questioning everything I was doing so that I was not doing that. I didn't want to do it because someone would see me in a particular light. I wanted to do because good was good to do for me. What I deemed as good was good for me to do. I don't think that standing without witnesses I don't think it is a philosophy. I think it's also physiological. I think the nervous system is used to, or it gets used to, reaction and validation and feedback in such a way that then it urges you on to do the same. It's like if you have a disease and then the disease starts to metastasize, remove those things, and your system will start searching for something to lean on. And this, I think, is the moment where people will either fall back and re-enter into their performance, or they begin to trust themselves and they stop making decision to choice. They stop doing that to appear a particular way for others. They're making choice, they're making decisions because that's what they want to do. That's what feels right to them for their life. That's their internal authority. This idea of self-trust, it's not going to be dramatic. I think, and it has for me, it's felt quiet, almost kind of boring, if you will, and uncelebrated. There's a moment where I do good for the reasons I wish to do good because I like that I made that choice. And there's a byproduct that comes out of it that is very comfortable, and in many ways it brings joy to me. You choose what's right without knowing how it will land, without knowing who will agree, and without knowing if anyone will notice at all. And what's great about that is when you move to that place, you really start to know what is me and what is performative. I want to say that it's not confidence, confidence, conning yourself, conning others. It's your internal authority returning home. It's always been there, like the Wizard of Oz, but you have to learn it for yourself. And once you integrate it through this process, it will not go away. You cannot unsee it. The internal authority that we've talked about, when genuinely developed, it doesn't seek an audience. It moreover seeks an alignment with you and your universe, your world, how you're experiencing and filtering the world. It's an alignment that brings order to your life with harmony as its natural byproduct. Here's the line that dissolves the illusion. If it only counts when someone else sees it, it was never integrity. I'm going to say it again. If it only counts when someone else sees it, it was never your integrity. It was a negotiation, it was a manipulation, it was your control, it was image building, but it's not integrity. So what does standing without witnesses, what does it actually mean? Standing doesn't mean defiance. It means alignment. We talked earlier in the year about embodiment, not with others, but with nature, your nature. You're not trying to be understood. You're not trying to be validated. You're not trying to be right. You're simply no longer outsourcing your sense of self. Standing without witnesses is where integrity becomes integrated. It's internal. No performance, no approval, no audience, no happy endings, no hit songs, nothing. Just you, your choices, and your willingness to live with those choices. Decision to choice, the ability to respond, the outcomes that follow, ownership every step of the way. Okay, so for this week, the aspect of this, I've asked every week for you to, find something that you observe and, see where it plays out in your life. So my particular story is one that, it's not any big deal, but I wanted to go to the grocery store the other night, and it was rainy and yucky outside, and so I decided to take an Uber from my hotel and then back. And on my way back, the driver was, very funny and, just kind of joking around with me and, talking about, the area that I'm at right now and just, very, very kind, I would say. And one of the things that I like to do in my life is when I give a gratuity to someone, I prefer to do it in a way that is more clandestine. I don't, I don't want, I don't need a person to acknowledge it or say anything about it. I just like doing it because I recognize the generosity of their own spirit of being hospitable, especially in my industry. And so when I got out of the car, I made sure to rate the driver and I gave him a gratuity, and I actually doubled the gratuity because I just thought, it was such a great experience. It was such a nice moment in my life for me that, it made me laugh. I had a good time. He had a really clean car. It smelled good in there, but it was something different. And as an Uber driver, I don't know how often you see this, but I mean, this guy was like, had a suit and tie on. It's like, that's the kind of driver I am. When I go to work, I wear a suit and tie. When I get on an airplane, I wear a suit and tie. And I just thought, the extra effort to, present oneself, not as an image building, but just, and I even mentioned it to him. I said, wow, I said a suit and tie. And, he made the comment. He goes, I like feeling good when I'm driving people. And this makes me feel good. He says, I don't feel so good when I'm, dressed in sweats or something like that. I didn't say anything. I just listened and, laughed and enjoyed. And it was a very nice experience. And I didn't need any witnesses to extend my hospitality. And the byproduct for me of extending my hospitality was satisfaction for me. I don't know this guy. I'll never see this guy again. I don't know what his thoughts were about having a gratuity that got doubled, but it didn't matter. It was what I wanted to do when no one else was witnessing. It was what I wanted to do because good for me felt good to do. And that's what I'm going to encourage you to do this week as well. Find that moment where no one else has to witness and you've been able to observe, oh, I made that choice because that's what I wanted to do. It was my integrity and I didn't need a witness for it. I just did it because that's what felt good to me and satisfactory to me.
And I take great offense at those who put the appearance of goodness over the reality of it. Those who virtue signal and say, oh, we can't give in to Russia, but have no solution to stopping thousands of kids dying every day. They just want that to continue forever. I have contempt for such people. I don't want to make that clear.
Yeah. So you're optimistic.
Because they're virtue signaling, and their lack of a solution means that kids don't have a father. It means that parents lost a son. For what? Nothing.
How do you feel about that?
How do I feel about that?
Yeah, no, I'm asking you personally how you feel about that, because we're talking about power and influence and...
I'm saying what I care about is the reality of goodness, not the perception of it. And what I see all over the place is people who care about looking good while doing evil.
Okay, hit that like button if you would. Share it with your family and friends. You never know how it might support them in their endeavor. All the fun links are below, and if you're inclined, feel free to subscribe on Buzzsprout. I am on X and Truth Social, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. The link to my newest book, The Christmas Cookie, Stories from the Counter, is listed below. I'd be grateful and honored if you chose to pick up a copy. It's a collection of heartwarming stories that I quietly say unfold the very principles that we talk about here each week. And until next time, stay sharp, stay sovereign, and as always, remember, let each care for self, and all will be cared for. Make it a great week.